Hi everyone, this is Low Fiber Girl here, and today I'm going to talk with you about sugars and starches. In my previous video, I was talking about how I'm on a low residue diet, which is also a low fiber diet. And so in this video, I'm going to explain a little bit more about sugars and starches and the differences between those. So being on a low fiber diet, one thing that is highly allowed is pure granular white sugar. And that is the gold standard for a low residue diet. And the reason is because it is 100% refined and it absorbs completely in the small intestine and leaves absolute zero residue or waste in the colon. So it really is the most ideal sugar. I've done a lot of research on this, and I remember, back when I was a raw foodist and where I was, listening to all these so-called health, advocates, and they were always promoting things like coconut sugar, molasses, like all kinds of like unrefined organic types of sugar. Those are actually not good for a low residue diet and just people that have sensitive stomachs. So I'll go over in detail about that. So basically, the only alternatives that are as safe as granulated white sugar is liquid glucose or dextrose. And this is pure glucose, unlike table sugar, which is half fructose. Dextrose is absorbed almost immediately by the gut wall without needing heavy enzymatic breakdown. It leaves zero residue and can be gentler if you have a fructose sensitivity. Another thing that seems to be okay is pure maple syrup or honey. While these contain minor trace minerals, they are liquids that break down entirely in the upper digestive tract. They leave zero residue, provided you use pure products without added fruit pulp or solids. Now, here are sweeteners to avoid that are worse than white sugar. So, sugar alcohols like xylitol, sorbitol, maltitol, these are heavily restricted on a low residue and low FODMAP protocols. They do not absorb well and pull water into the colon, causing severe gas, bloating, and diarrhea. Another one is coconut sugar. Often praised as a health substitute, coconut sugar contains inulin fiber. Fiber is the exact definition of residue and must be avoided. So I actually experimented with coconut sugar about, I guess, a year ago now. It was about a year ago. And I was thinking, I wonder, because it's lower glycemic than cane sugar, I thought maybe that would be a great thing to, add into my puddings or, put into my dairy. And so I tried it and, oh, wow, I got bloated. I think I got stomach cramps. It did not go well, and I didn't feel good. I'm like, what is wrong with this? And I didn't understand at the time that it has fiber. It has inulin fiber, and that is the reason why. Like, it's a low amount, but it was enough to trigger bad symptoms in myself. And this is why, because it contains inulin fiber, that's why it's lower glycemic than cane sugar, because they are both equally sucrose, same amount of fructose to glucose ratio. Raw cane sugar is another no-no. Turbinado. These larger crystals are less refined and contain residual molasses plant matter. They can irritate a raw inflamed intestinal lining. So, and now, so I'm going to talk a little bit more about the granular white sugar. It is the best sugar for a low residue diet because it is 100% refined sucrose, meaning it contains absolute zero dietary fiber or complex plant matter. And The primary goal of a low residue diet is for flare-ups of Crohn's, diverticulitis, or colonoscopy prep is to minimize the amount of undigested food that passes through the large intestine. Granulated white sugar achieves this better than any other sugar due to its chemical purity and how the human body digests it. It has rapid and complete upper GI absorption. Granular white sugar is a simple disaccharide sucrose made of one glucose molecule and one fructose molecule. Because it contains no complex structural compounds, the enzymes in your small intestine break it down almost instantly. It is fully absorbed into the bloodstream before it can ever reach the large intestine, leaving no solid waste or residue behind to irritate a healing bowel. And it has complete absence of added starches. Unlike powdered sugar, which is acceptable for a low residue diet, but it's not as ideal as the granular sugar. Powdered sugar requires a 3 to 5% cornstarch additive to prevent caking and clumping. Granular sugar is completely pure. Cornstarch is a complex carbohydrate that demands extra enzymatic labor from your digestive tract. Granular white sugar bypasses this entirely, ensuring zero additive irritation. And free of bowel-stimulating molasses. See, molasses is not good for low residue. Unlike brown sugar or raw cane sugar turbinado, granular white sugar has had all its natural molasses spun out during refining. Molasses is naturally high in magnesium and specific unrefined liquid sugars that pull water into the bowel, which can accelerate gut transit times, provoking cramping or trigger diarrhea in an already inflamed GI tract. And it has zero insulin or natural fibers. Unrefined alternatives like coconut sugar are often praised in health food communities because they retain natural fibers like inulin. However, on a low residue diet, fiber is the enemy. Inulin, that's right, everyone. That's my saying right there. Fiber is the enemy. Inulin travels straight to the colon undigested, where it ferments and creates gas, bloating, and bulky stool. The exact symptoms of a low residue diet is designed to stop. So here's a summary of why it wins. Because under soluble fiber, it has none. Under the GI irritants, granular white sugar has none. And under the diet status, it's the ideal golden standard. So that's granular white sugar. Powdered white sugar has zero residue, but it has cornstarch residue, which can be a GI irritant additive, and the diet status, it's acceptable. When it comes to light or dark brown sugar, it has zero fiber residue, but it has molasses, which is a laxative risk. And under diet status, it says use with caution. Under coconut sugar, under fiber residue, it contains inulin. Under GI irritants, it has high fermentation fiber. And under diet status, it's strictly forbidden. So do not use coconut sugar. That's the worst. So the worst is coconut sugar, followed by dark or light brown sugar. Then powdered white sugar is acceptable, and granular sugar is the best. Now, I talked a little bit about gar gum in my last video, it being a gut disruptant irritant, and it's a fiber, and I want to expand on that just a little more in this video because I didn't get a chance to in the last video, because I had experimented with whipped cream cheese and it tore up my stomach and gave me bad bowel movement, I did research on it. I'm like, what the heck, and I realized it was the intense amount of gar gum in it. And all maybe other gums as well. So whipped cream cheese with added gar gum is not good for a low residue diet because gar gum is a highly concentrated form of soluble dietary fiber. Even though plain traditional cream cheese is perfectly acceptable on a low residue diet, the addition of gar gum completely changes how the food behaves in your digestive tract. And why it is bad? Because it's derived from a high-fiber legume. Gar gum is extracted from the seeds of the gar plant, the Indian cluster beans. Because it comes from a legume, it consists entirely of complex polysaccharides, which function exactly like a highly concentrated soluble fiber. It creates stool bulk. The primary purpose of a low-residue diet is to shrink and slow down stool volume. Gar gum acts like a sponge. It absorbs water and forms a thick gel in your intestines. This bulks up your stool, which is the exact opposite of what you want during a bowel rest protocol or a colonoscopy prep. It causes fermentation and gas. Because your small intestine cannot break down the complex bonds of gar gum, it travels completely intact straight to your large intestine. Once there, your gut bacteria ferment it. This fermentation process releases gases leading to severe bloating, abdominal cramping, and unexpected flatulence, which can deeply irritate a raw or inflamed intestinal lining. Why they put it in whipped cream cheese? Food manufacturers heavily rely on stabilizers like gar gum, xanthan gum, or carrageenan in whipped dairy products to trap air pockets, maintain a fluffier texture, and prevent the cream from separating into liquid over time. So that's why avoid those whipped dairy products, and you can avoid those added gut disruptors. All right, now we're going to talk about sucrose and why it is easier to digest than starch. The reason I'm going into this is because, actually, you know what? I'm gonna begin this talk in my next video as a part 2 because this video is getting kind of long. So part 2 coming up, I'm going to talk about why sucrose is easier to digest than starch, and talk to you about my experience with both.